This video is information for Aspen instructors on how to do a group safety briefing for Duke of Edinburgh Award expeditions. This briefing is intended to be short, and it's going to cover things like hazards, points of potential navigation error for the groups, a skills refresh for the participants, kit and clothing, what to do if they get lost, information on our grab bags and all the comms equipment that are in there, and the emergency procedures that are in there. And explaining to the participants where you intend to be as the supervisor during the course of the expedition. This group safety briefing is particularly for qualifying expeditions where participants are more likely to be on their own and you're undertaking remote supervision. On expeditions which are conducted with close or direct supervision, for example on a practice expedition, there's less of a requirement to emphasize the hazards and emergency procedures. Okay, so a key thing to emphasize to all groups on Duke of Edinburgh Award expeditions where the participants are going to be on their own, probably the number one safety instruction is for the participants to stay together as a group, and you'll need to explain what that means. So for example, if the participants are so strung out that they can't communicate with each other without shouting, they're too far apart. They must stay together as a group. In terms of kit and equipment, there's inside our grab bags. These are our grab bags. The group and supervisor grab bag, they come as a pair. Inside the supervisor grab bag, there is a checklist of kit and equipment. This is not exhaustive, but it highlights the main items of kit and equipment, and the items that are in red here, I would recommend that you see, you get eyes on. So for example, sleeping bag and mat. Do you have a tent, stove, fuel, waterproof jacket and trousers, hat and gloves, water, food? Okay. Now this safety briefing and the things that you emphasize are going to be a little bit different depending on the weather and depending on the group. You're going to need to prioritize the time that you have. So for example, if it's a cold, wet, rainy day in March, you must see those waterproofs, see the hats and gloves before they go out. If it's a sunny day in June, it's essential that they have things like a sun hat, they have sun cream, and they have extra water. In terms of hazards, a good thing to do is to ask the participants to consider, is to look at the map and to think about the weather that they have just now at the start of the expedition and the weather forecast for the forthcoming period, and to think about, well, what are the hazards that we might encounter over the course of the 2, 3 or 4 days. To help you with that, within the supervisor bag, we have a set of hazard cards. Each of these cards represents a different hazard that they may come across during the course of their expedition. So you can ask them to have a look at the maps and route cards, and perhaps they see a road crossing, or they might see an area of conifer forest. Each of these are clues as to hazards that they might encounter. So you can ask them to go through this set of packs this list of hazard cards and group them together in terms of things that they are definitely likely to see, things they might see and encounter, and things that they're not likely to encounter. And then you can ask them questions on how they then could keep themselves safe. This is also a good opportunity, whilst you're looking at the map and discussing hazards, to explain points where you will be there providing direct supervision. So, for example, you might highlight, here's a road crossing, a busy section of road. You can say, don't cross the road. If I'm not there already, wait for me and we'll cross the road together. Points of nav error, again with the map, their expedition route, you can ask them, where are points where you might make a navigational error? This gives them an opportunity to demonstrate some navigational competence with you, navigational knowledge. And then again, you can explain that at certain points that you'll be not necessarily with them, but you'll be close and nearby. Within the group pack, there are emergency procedures for participants. And this flowchart talks about what to do if somebody has an injury, and on the back, what to do if somebody is lost. So, if at a point of nav errors, a group has gone the wrong way, and as a supervisor you miss them, you're not there in time, or if they make an error somewhere that you're not expecting, you want to brief them on what to do if they've gone the wrong way or if they are lost. So the briefing is assess the situation, try to work out where they are using the map and compasses. Don't worry about getting into trouble. If they get lost, they're not going to fail if they get lost. Ask them to telephone or radio the supervisor to let you know that they've gone the wrong way. They can consider retracing their steps to go back to where they were. But importantly, brief them not to take a shortcut. Either stay where they are and wait for you to come to them, having phoned you, or retrace their steps back to the last place that they knew that they were. In the unlikely event that it's getting close to dark, remind them that they have tents, they have sleeping bags, they've got stoves. There's no issue at all with them using that equipment, putting up a tent, keeping safe, keeping warm until you get to them. Emergency procedures. It begins with the question, if there's an injury, what do you do? So brief their participants to stay calm and assess the situation, and to assess the casualty. Is the casualty breathing? Is the casualty conscious? Are there signs of blood? Brief them to ask the question to assess, is the casualty unconscious or in serious harm? And you'll need to explain to them that they understand. You'll need to ask them questions so that you can find out whether they know what unconscious is. So ask them, what is unconsciousness? And you can ask them questions. What would serious harm look like? Give me examples of serious harm. If there is unconsciousness or serious harm, you brief your participants to phone for mountain rescue and then to phone you. And you need to explain to them that upon phoning 999, they ask for the police and then ask for mountain rescue. Importantly, they have to contact you as well. If it's something not as serious, So for example, if it's a sprain or strain or a graze or a small cut, they've to contact you. Brief the participants to treat the injury. So if it's a graze or a sprain or strain, if it's a graze, they can use the plasters and the alcohol wipes and the first aid kit to treat the wound. If it's a strain or sprain, get them to rest and immobilize the leg so they don't hurt themselves any further. Remind them as well that they can use their tents, their sleeping bags, and they must remember to look after the entire group, not just the casualty. Brief them to stay where they are and wait for you to come to them. Remind them that they have the grab bag, which contains a phone and a radio, and to use that information to communicate to you where they are, what's gone wrong, what their grid reference is. So let me go into the grab bag in a bit more detail. The grab bag contains emergency procedures, a phone, a GPS device, a radio, spare batteries for the GPS device, a briefing card on ticks and Lyme disease, a card which has got the telephone number for the mobile phone that you will have as a supervisor. We also have instructions on how to use the GPS device. And there's a notepad, pen, and a whistle. Very importantly, with regard to the phone, you need to show them how to use it. Don't assume that they will know how to use this phone. There's 3 different types of simple phone that we have in our 13 sets of grab bags. They all turn on and function in different ways. This one, the on button is there. Hold it down for 5 seconds and it will come on. What I recommend is that you show the participants how to telephone the supervisor phone. Get them to actually make a telephone call, and you want to hear the supervisor phone ring. Sometimes the phones don't ring because they've gone onto silent mode, and it's very important that you check that they do ring. They can call the supervisor phone by just putting in the number, or they can go into the address book and search for the supervisor telephone number in there. My number is on all of the phones under Director. All of the phones have been registered for Text 999 as well. It's important to brief the participants that they should lock the keypad before it goes back into the grab bag so that they don't misdial by mistake. Show them how to lock it and how to unlock the screen. The mobile phone must be on at the beginning of the day and remain on within the grab bag. At the end of the day, it's your job as supervisor to make sure that this goes off and remains off overnight to preserve the battery. The GPS device, the purpose of this is to give a grid reference. There are instructions. Give the instructions to some of the participants and watch them use it and work out a grid reference for where they are. You need to explain to them that this is not like a phone. It doesn't rely on phone signal. It communicates with satellites. But you have to watch them use it. This remains off in the grab bag to preserve the battery. It only goes on when it's going to be used. If it dies, if the battery runs out, you turn the case, comes off, and you can replace the AA batteries. And there are AA batteries in the pack. Show them how to do that. The grid reference that comes up on here is a 10-figure grid reference. The instruction card explains to them that they only require a 6-figure grid reference, and explains that you round up to get the 6 figures. It's important to emphasize as well that nobody is going to get into trouble if they use this. This is a skill to use a GPS device. They can use it to check where they are. They can use it if they think they don't know where they are, if they're a little bit lost. There's no problem at all with that. And explain to them at times, you may radio them and say, can you give me a grid reference for where you are? And so they can use this to work that out. It's very important that the phone and the GPS remains at all times within the pouch. These are not to be kept in pockets because that's how they get lost. We have here a briefing card on ticks and Lyme's disease. All the information is there that you need to read out. Explain what a tick is. Explain that this is a rash that accompanies Lyme disease. All the information is there. So make sure that's briefed in all circumstances to all groups, whether a practice expedition or a qualifying expedition. The radio, we use 2 types of radio. These are non-licensed radios. Again, you want to give these to the participants and explain how they go on, how they go off, how the volume works, explain that they need to be on the same channel, explain that they're not like phones, only one person can work at a time. They have a limited range. If there is a hill between you and the participant, they're not going to work. Explain the limitations of these. Explain that they are not toys, they're not to be used to communicate with other groups, because the battery will drain. Generally, these will last about 3 days if you look after the battery. So on gold expeditions, you need a backup. If the battery does fail, we tend to have spare AAA batteries in the supervisor pack. But you do need a little screwdriver here to open up the back. This yellow one goes on like that. And the volume is here. And you press the button at the side to speak. A good thing to brief them on is to say, when you're about to send a message, press the button, pause, begin speaking, finish the message, pause, then lift up the finger. With this type of radio, there are little metal contacts at the bottom. If these get wet, that light will come on and the light will not go off unless you dry the base. They're pretty good in water, actually. notwithstanding the fact that that light can come on and can drain the battery. They're pretty good. But if it does rain, I recommend that they keep that inside a pocket so it doesn't get wet, so that contacts don't get wet and the battery doesn't drain. If it's dry weather, they can be clipped onto a rucksack. This older type of radio goes on like this. You twist. That's both the volume and on off, so turn it as far as you can. And again, it's got the button at the side that you press, communicate, finish speaking, lift the finger off the button. The supervisor bag. As mentioned before, we've got our kit checklist. We've got the hazard cards. We have an emergency phone and a phone card which has got the phone numbers, which has got the phone number for the phone that the participants are going to have. Again, as an instructor, familiarise yourself on how to use this and test it. And make sure it's not on silent mode. Please do not take this out of the pouch and put it into your pocket because they'll get lost. Please keep them within the pouch. There's also a notepad and pen. There are AAA batteries for the radio. If you do replace the battery in the radio, it's very important that you tell us that you've done that, because the battery in here is rechargeable and these AAA batteries are not rechargeable and they'll need to be taken out so we don't have a problem when we try and recharge batteries that are not rechargeable. We have emergency procedures which are for you, which are a little bit more involved than the participant emergency procedures. And lastly, we have a checklist here which can be useful to review how the group did. So this is something that you can use to discuss the expedition expectations with your group before the expedition starts, and then you can go back and review this with the group at the end. So some of them are written in already, but there are some blank ones at the bottom. So we've got here, how did we do as a group? Get yourself up in the morning. Keep the campsite tidy and neat. All kit goes inside the tent overnight. Stay together as a group. Wear waterproofs when it rains. Warm clothes when it's cold. Work as a team and help each other. Cook a substantial meal. Be respectful for others. And you can add more. So that's the content of the supervisor bags. In terms of a skills refresh, I would recommend for qualifying expeditions where your participants are going to be setting off on their own, you need to make some sort of assessment, some sort of judgment about their navigational capability. You can do this by asking questions about the route, ask them to describe the route, ask them to describe what they are likely to see along a portion of the route, ask them where might they make mistakes, ask them about different map symbols, ask them where north is on the map, ask them how big the grid squares are. Also ask them to use a compass to work out where north is, and ask them to set the map to north. I find it beneficial as a supervisor to get them to take some simple compass bearings because the route card is going to have instructions like go north, go northeast, go southwest, and it's beneficial for the participants if they can learn to take simple compass bearings, to take a southwesterly bearing, take a northerly bearing, take a southerly bearing. You want to get them to demonstrate to you that they know how to take a bearing, and to then look along the direction of travel arrow so they know what direction to walk in. Lastly, you want to explain what your role is. Explain that you're there to keep them safe. Explain to them that at times on a qualifying expedition you will be remote from them and that they won't see you. Explain to them that you always should be within radio contact, but to try the phone if the radio doesn't work. Explain that sometimes the phones, there may not be phone signal, and if there isn't phone signal, to fall back on the radio. Explain to them that at times there will be portions of the route where you're likely to be close to them, and which means that you're nearby. And explain to them that there will be points where you'll be with them, and that's called direct supervision. And examples are, it might be a stream crossing or a road crossing, or areas where there's some sort of hazard. Hopefully that's helpful. I know that's a lot of information to take in. These are really useful resources in terms of teaching and in terms of safety. But it's very important to make sure that you undertake that briefing thoroughly with the participants before they set out. Thank you.